Okay, yes. So I'm Bao Hui from the Singapore Global Network, and I'm our regional director for UK and Ireland. I essentially oversee our engagement and outreach in the region. And for those of you who are not familiar with us, the Singapore Global Network, or SGN, is a division of the Singapore Economic Development Board. And our mission is really to broaden and deepen our networks of overseas Singaporeans as well as friends and fans of Singapore. So we're really a growing global community, and we run lots of different events and initiatives, including this one. If you'd like to find out more about us, head on over to our website. That's www.singaporeglobalnetwork.gov.sg. What we do at SGN, amongst others, is actually build a community of tech professionals all around the world. That's called Tech65. We host a community on Slack where individuals engage each other on topics to do with opportunities and trends in Singapore's tech ecosystem. And this is open to our SGN members. If you're in tech and you're part of our network, we'd love for you to come and join us. So please give us a shout. And we're very excited because today's Building Trust event marks the very first of a series where we explore themes in relation to the notion of building. So we're very excited for this event to have come to life, and we've brought together speakers from some of Singapore's biggest and brightest startups to not just talk about the tech, but also the people and the processes. So just before we dive in, we'd love to hear your questions, so make sure to submit them via the chat function, right? And make sure your microphones and your cameras remain turned off for the duration of this panel. But we do have a networking session right after, so that's when we'd like to see you turn your cameras on and microphones for that particular segment itself. So this session is being recorded, and you can check it out later on our SGN YouTube channel, right? Great. In terms of the overall flow of the agenda, if I could take you through very quickly, for today's event, we'll start with a series of sharing by our speakers, followed by a panel discussion and an audience Q&A. So we'll hope to end in the next hour before we go into our 15-minute speed networking segment and wrap. So without further ado, I'm going to be handing the time over to our moderator tonight, Ariff Munshi. Ariff is a project officer and a full stack developer at SGN, where he works to improve and introduce new digital products for the network. And prior to joining SGN, he spent the last decade in various startup companies, helping them develop and launch products. Apart from building, he also has held and enjoys his teaching stints as an adjunct lecturer in application development at the Institute of Technical Education, and more recently as a lecturer at the SMU Academy, where he teaches web and mobile application development to meet career learners. Thanks so much, Ariff.
All right, thank you so much, Bao, for the welcome. Yes, my name is Ariff, and I'll be the moderator for today. A little bit of background about myself. I'm a project officer at SGN, where I'm also a full stack developer. Without dwelling too much on, sorry, give me a moment here. All right, so today's topic is going to be on building trust on consumer platforms. And with us today, we have three guest speakers sharing about how their various startups approach the issues of trust when they're building out their products for their various companies. So the question we always ask ourselves is that when we build companies, especially startup companies, being small and young, how do we actually build trust into our products? Is it in the messaging, the design, having testimonials, or taking a full technical approach in building trust in our products, right? What is it also about tech products that people tend to be more willing to give up their data and trust them with their service? Do they have some dark technology behind to get people to readily surrender all the information? So today, of our three speakers, first we will have Boxian Tan, who is the co-founder and chief product officer of NinjaVan, a tech-driven logistics company. Previously, he was the chief operating officer, where he led the company's general operations. Next, we have Lavone, marketplace experience shared services senior manager from Carousell. Prior to joining Carousell, Lavone spent some time overseeing customer experience at Lazada Singapore. And last but not least, we will have Tee-Ming also doing his sharing as a co-founder of Seedly, where he currently leads its product and engineering teams. Before co-founding Seedly, he was an early employee of Shopback and Pixley. So without further ado, I'll have Boxian take the mic now. Sorry, Boxian take over the screen to share a little bit more about NinjaVan and how they approach the issues of trust when building out their business. Boxian?
Okay, hey everyone, Boxian. I'm Boxian here, so one of the co-founders at NinjaVan. So just a quick introduction to the company. Right? We are a tech-enabled logistics company that provides supply chain solutions for businesses of all sizes across Southeast Asia. Right? The company was founded in 2014. Right? And over the span of a few years, we expanded our operations to 6 markets in Southeast Asia: Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Right, so over the years, we progressed steadily towards our vision of enabling e-commerce sellers, right, in the region. So we're delivering over 1.5 million parcels now, right, daily. And we support over 1.2 million shippers, active shippers, right. Just a bit about myself as well. I was lucky enough to be part of this really crazy and intense journey from the start, right. So I spent the first few years heading up the core operating functions, right. So this includes the fleet management team, sort and warehouse operations, middle mile, as well as our service support teams, right? Especially as we expanded and solidified our footprints across the 6 markets that we now operate in. Right, more recently, over the last 2 years, I took on the product function, so I work very closely with the engineering team to continue innovating and improving our product offerings. So what does the product engineering team do at NinjaVan? Right, we essentially build and maintain the suite of products, right, that has been really the foundation on which we run our business. Right, so this ranges from the external facing products, right, like our shipper portals or consumer facing apps, right, that millions of our customers use every day to track and manage their deliveries, right, to the internal operating tools that our ninjas use to maintain operational excellence, right, especially as we need to operate in thousands of locations across 6 countries. Right, so to this end, I really cannot stress enough like how important our tech has been as one of the key ingredients of our success thus far. Right, by having an end-to-end system completely built and maintained by ourselves, right, we are able to move fast, right, and adapt to capture new opportunities, right, or adapt to new changes. Right, and we're also able to maintain a very tight feedback loop, right, iterate fast, especially in our early years as we expanded and learn more about new markets and their requirements. Right, and this speed and agility remains crucial for us even now, right, and moving forward, right, as we continue to innovate and adapt to the evolving needs of the market. Right, and finally, just to touch very quickly on today's topic, right, and what does trust mean to us in NinjaVan? Personally, I believe that trust is a key fundamental aspect for any business, right, especially so for us as a logistics service as well. Because essentially the service you're providing here, right, is really asking for people to trust us with their packages, right, to be delivered to the right person, the right place, the right time. Right, and tech really has a very huge role to play here, right, both internally and externally, to bring us the visibility and transparency required to win our customers' trust, right, and deliver on the promises that we make. So that's all I really have to share right now. Right, hope you guys understand a bit more about Ninja and our tech team. And I'll pass the time back to the next speaker as well. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Boxian. I'll definitely like to hear more about the technology that you have in terms of verifying and your delivery man, and also the tech involved in getting the products to the end user as smoothly as possible. All right, next we have Tee-Ming, and Tee-Ming is the co-founder of Seedly, and I'll let him continue with his presentation next. Tee-Ming?
Thanks, Ariff. Just let me share my screen. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for the invite to share on building trust on consumer-facing product. So my name is Tee-Ming, and today I'm just going to share a bit on how we at Seedly build trust on the community platform itself. But I think before we actually start, just want to do a quick intro again of my startup journey. So again, I'm Tee-Ming, and I'm the co-founder of Seedly. So I work closely with the product engineering team in the company, and my startup journey actually started way back in 2014. So I actually joined Shopback as their very first hire, and also software engineering intern, together with the co-founders to build the very first version of the cashback site. And the internship actually gave me a lot of perspective in terms of the entrepreneurship itself. So that was the reason why I actually went on to NUS Overseas College, so NOC, where essentially we get to study and work in overseas. So I was lucky to be in Silicon Valley, and also working as a software engineer in a marketing tech company. That was also in 2015, and that was also the year that I met my co-founder Kenneth. So basically we clicked quite well, and we tried out different side project. Was just very curious to build products and solution to solve some of the problems that we face back then as a student. And one of the many projects that we tried was eventually Sidley. So we actually launched Sidley in 2016 during our final year in NUS with the goal to help consumer make smarter financial decisions. And last year we actually joined Hyphen Group, which is essentially a growth company very focused on improving financial lives in the Southeast Asia region. Just want to share a bit on Sidley as well. We are a community platform, again, to help users make smarter financial decisions. And the way we do it is through 3 channels. So first, as a user, you can actually engage with others through the various discussion on the platform itself, ranging from personal finance, investing, retirement plan, and more. And we also do allow our users to be able to search and compare over 600 financial products with over 23,000 users reviews before they actually make the final decision to sign up for the product itself. Last but not least, we also have various tools as well. One of the many is the savings account interest calculator, where we help our users to calculate based on their spending and also income requirements to find the best savings account in Singapore based on the highest interest rate. So yeah, I'll just jump in to share what is trust to us at Sidley. So there's many aspects to trust on a community platform. And today I'm just going to touch on the 2 areas. So first, for us, it means that there is no spam happening on the community platform. And also the second part is on having real user interaction on the platform itself. If you can refer to the bottom part, these are the things that we don't want to happen on our community platform, where fake posts of someone mentioning that they got a free gift card and trying to encourage people to click on the link. We also definitely don't want fake posts regarding John Cena of WWE having this bloodiest match which cannot be seen on TV. Yeah, we try to remove all this kind of spam content and also make sure that there isn't any bot from trying to create fake content on the platform itself. And the way that we do it is we focus on 3 areas. So first is to really prevent the spam content from being created. Later on, we also try to manage the content properly on the platform itself. We also do have community guidelines to really help our users to better understand how they should interact and engage on the community itself. And maybe just quickly touch on how we do it. So for the prevention part, we utilize common methods like CAPTCHA. We validate email. We do cross-referencing on spam domains to prevent potential spam accounts from being created in the first place. We also do account verification, and there is also certain requirements before you can actually post certain types of content on Sidley. And last but not least, also we do have a data team that constantly monitor the type of users who sign up on the platform and also the rate to see whether there's any abnormal behavior happening. On the management part, we also work with the community itself to help us flag out certain content that's happening on the platform. And then what our internal team will do is to review all this content and also take the necessary action to prevent and to remove all this content. We also do have internal tools as well to basically better detect potential spam content. So we make use of keywords, we make use of certain user behavior to actually identify all this. And we are able to list down potential content that hasn't been flagged out by the users, and the team will also constantly review all this content. Yeah, as I mentioned, we also have very clear rules when it comes to participating in these discussions. We also try to be very transparent to our community as to how we run the company, how our business model works, things like how the data is being used, how do we make money. It's all listed on the website itself. And also, lastly, we have we host offline and online events as well. Pre-COVID, we do a lot of offline events to make sure that our members stay connected with each other, and also to show faces, behind the team, behind the online profiles that you see on the platform, so that they are able to connect with each other. And we do have also this annual event, which is what we call a Sidley event, Sidley Fest, where we host, I would say, the large-scale event. So this year we actually hosted a virtual one because of COVID, and we had more than 5,000 attendees streaming online to hear thought leaders and also be able to connect real time with the current users on the platform. So with that, it's just going to be a short sharing. I know it's going to be hard to share everything honestly, and hope I'm happy to connect with anyone who have any questions regarding building community in Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Tee-Ming. I think it's very interesting in how Sidley's approach is almost purely community-based, from the curation to the creation and also reviews. So we'd like to hear more about that, on how you actually manage this for a startup at scale, especially when the number of users grows into the millions of hits per day. Anyway, before we go there, we have our last speaker for today, and Lavone, who's a marketplace experience and shared services senior manager at Carousell, a marketplace for C2C for those who are unfamiliar with Carousell. Prior to joining Carousell, Lavone spent some time overseeing customer experience at Lazada Singapore, one of the biggest e-commerce stores in Singapore. All right, Lavone, take it away.
Hey, hi guys. Very honored to be here to be speaking to you guys today. So I'll go a little bit more in terms of how we build trust at Carousell. So basically what Carousell does is that we are a C2C and P2P classified platform. So this is where we actually allow users to buy and sell pre-loved items, spanning across categories such as big ticket items like your cars, property, to smaller items like fashion accessories. We were actually founded in 2012 when our founders actually realized that they had this huge problem of things lying around in their house, and it was all underutilized, unused, and they were nowhere. There was no easy way for them to actually sell all these items using mobile phones. So they figured out that the best way was actually to solve their own problems, hence Carousell was born. So we aim to actually build an inclusive platform where anybody can start listing their items to sell. And what we wanted to do is also give the power to our buyers and sellers to decide exactly how much of themselves they want to review. So for example, if let's say you are a merchant who have a physical store, you would generally want to share all the information in terms of your business registration numbers up to like where's your store location and how to contact you and whatnot. But for casuals, generally, they don't really want to share that much. So we do really want to give like our users this option to choose. But I think because we are actually a P2P classifieds platform, that actually makes us quite susceptible to fraud and scams, since it's essentially an exchange of money between strangers. So later on in my presentation, I'll go a little bit more in terms of some of the technology we use, what are some of the learnings, and then some of the features that we have on the platform. Yeah, so currently Carousell is actually operating in 8 over markets. We actually help our users give our users like the tools to solve their problems, whether it's for decluttering or even in terms of having a side business. So what we do is really to enable them to list any item for sale in 30 seconds and utilize our in-app chat to actually talk to like different buyers or sellers without revealing too much personal information like phone numbers. And having our core focus on photos as well as the ability to share on social media channels actually help our users to be able to sell a lot faster. So in 8 years, we have actually grown into Southeast Asia's #1 classified marketplace. We are currently in the phase where we are trying to build more value for our verticals and also to monetize. So we actually have about 750 plus teammates across all the 8 different offices, and we are still hiring quite aggressively. So if you're interested, always just drop by our careers page. So we actually believe that there's a lot more in terms of more than just buying and selling. We believe that there's a lot more possibilities that people can bring to the process, and also there's a lot more opportunities beyond the transaction. So our mission is really to inspire everyone to start buying and selling, and also not just buying and selling, but really to define commerce where we make secondhand the first choice. Since it's actually more economical, it makes a lot more economical sense, as well as it's more sustainable as well. So coming back to the problem of how we are more susceptible to fraud and scams, you really want to know your customers. So right at the start, before you start an account, we also have the standard email and social media verification. But in order to make sure that we are able to grow and allow people to start just browsing through our websites first, we did not introduce SMS verification. SMS verification is only required the moment that you try to sell. And if let's say you want like even to further increase like your credibility of an account, we are also linked to SingPass, so we can also do that. Generally, we actually tell our sellers that as long as you get verified, you get this verified badge, and that actually allows you to sell faster and gain more success. The other thing that we do is to introduce what we call as account limits. This is what we do to limit the number of accounts one user can have. And when by doing so, it actually helps us to contain bad actors as well. In the backend itself, we also have digital fingerprint technology. So we actually use that to identify related accounts and to enforce any kind of account limits per device. So for example, if let's say you have a bad actor on our platform, we will make use of all this information and try to identify all these related accounts to make sure that you're not able to expand your fraudulent actions. So in terms of technology and learning, we actually use different types of technology. One of it is a rule-based fraud detection and prevention tool. Generally, you really want to start identifying and block the bad actors right before they act. But if let's say they have already acted, we would also look into, like, for example, their chats to find if they had used any phone numbers or bank accounts. And so we will put it into our rule-based fraud detection. So the moment that this information actually appears the next time in another account, in another chat, straight away we are able to take down those accounts immediately. We also use things like IP address detection. For high-risk countries such as Nigeria and Russia, we also block some of these accounts. I think the more interesting part for some of you might be for the machine learning based scores. So we're actually using a third-party provider called SafeScience. They actually provide us a risk score based on different signals and events, and like we are actually able to build different rules based on all these identifiers. Lastly, I think within Carousell, you also want to do like periodic security or even vulnerability testing on the platform to ensure that all your information are secure. So one of the key learnings that we learned is that when we were very dependent on a third party, that actually left us pretty vulnerable when previously one of our providers, they got acquired and they actually shut down within about 1 week. And we were just left very shocked. And that's when we actually aspired to start building everything in the long run in-house. One of the things that we have really started working on is to build a configurable rule engine. So this would actually be able to help us for most of the use cases. But for things that requires more deep technology where we don't really have too much knowledge, that's when we use our third-party service. The other thing we realized is that you really want to start using data in all the decisions that you're making. And we realized that when we were using the third-party apps, it was actually like a black box. So we had users writing in and telling us, why are you suspending my account when I'm innocent? So a lot of times we actually face challenges of false positives, and yet we don't really know exactly why the machine was suspending the accounts. So within in-house, you also need a lot of efforts to understand all these evolving trends. And we also make sure that we only automate actions for those fraud scores that are very high, that we have very high confidence with. And if let's say we are not too sure, that's when we actually go to manual moderators. So on Carousell, it's actually pretty common where users face different types of anxiety. It could be whereby they might be afraid that what if like they have paid and the item is not as described or not even delivered at all. It could also be they were afraid in terms of our payments and whether should they even start buying from a seller who doesn't have a review. So some of the features are designed on our platform to improve trust. One of it is, I think the most common one is rating and reviews. We started on smiley face and then we realized it wasn't enough to provide information. So now we have evolved to a 5-star rating scale. And reviews actually help all the other users to be able to get a better understanding of the product or experience with a buyer or seller. So we generally educate our users to refer to rating and reviews before they chat. And we also tell them that as long as you have a good rating, that's when you also enjoy more success. Yeah, so another thing is also on community flags. I think in Carousell, we rely a lot on our community as our eyes and ears on the ground. So similar to the other platforms, you can actually flag suspicious listings or even users to us. And this would actually all flow through to our manual moderators, and we would investigate within 24 hours. Once we have an investigation done, we would actually close the loop and send what we think is the outcome to all these users as well. Carousell groups is also another channel that we try to connect our users. So we actually connect users based on their interests, their locations, or even in terms of groups. If let's say you belong to a school and you're selling textbooks. So this sense of familiarity actually helps to bring people together and help them to connect with people, and that in turn increases the trust amongst users and towards Carousell as well. The other thing that we launched is also called Carousell Protection. That's actually an escrow service that we launched in 2018 to keep our buyers' money in escrow until the buyer acknowledged the receipt of the item as described. So this actually helps us to ward off scammers who are trying to ask users to chat off the platform when we have no visibility. And also, if let's say they are just asking users to pay the money upfront, but they don't have enough visibility to turn out money. So in 2020, that was actually a very challenging year for us. In February, you can see that due to the COVID, we actually saw our fraud cases spiking up to 11 cases in every 10,000 transactions. But we managed to bring it down by the end of the year. And this was actually a very exciting year for us because that was also when we saw the most number of transactions on our platform since launch. So I think the last part is also in terms of working together with partners. So we work very closely with our trust and safety partners like Singapore Police Force. As and when there's new trends, we would actually work together with them to share information to aid investigations. Also, we are also in an industry group called Project Scan. This is where we learn a lot more from industry players and other e-commerce platforms like Lazada or Shopee, and we come together and share what we are doing together. Media comes in whenever there's like a social media escalations or like it becomes a story on media. You just want to make sure that you are being responsive and you make use of that chance to educate users as well. Lastly, in terms of our teams, we also look very closely in terms of what our users are saying. So if we notice that certain scams are on the rise, that's when we create in-house safety campaigns to educate our users. So in terms of final takeaways, there's mainly 5. You always need to be on. There's no time for you to rest when it comes to scammers. They are always changing their mode of operandi. So we have to be very vigilant to detect new patterns and try to outsmart them. The other thing is in terms of using man and machine. Most of the time we need both to work in concert, and you would generally start with manual efforts for you to detect and understand the problems and actions. And later on, you can use machine to detect the patterns even better and also do things faster. But generally, you also want to make sure that you are balancing machine productivity versus false positives. Next one is in terms of speed. It's really in the name of the game. The longer a scammer is active on the platform, we realize that that's when frauds can go up exponentially. Especially if, let's say, they are very tech savvy. That's when you need to make sure that the moment you realize one actor is a scammer, that's when you remove the accounts and its related accounts immediately. If you are starting up, it also makes sense for you to buy off-the-shelf solutions to ramp up the learning curve. Once you already learned and you think that you are able to handle things on your own, that's when you want to start building some of the tech in-house. Lastly, it really takes a village to fight fraud. You want to work together with the ecosystem and learn from your other competitors, even or even in terms of industry partners, and then collaborate and bring down all these frauds. I think with that, I'm done with my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Lavone. I think it must be really tough when you are running a marketplace for P2P and you have to handle both sides. There's a lot of issues that might come up, like fake products, counterfeit products, spam, and all that. So I would like to welcome everyone back here. And now is the Q&A section. For those of you who just joined us, my name is Ariff and I'm with SGN, the Singapore Global Network. And I'll be moderating the panel discussion for today. You can post your questions all up in the chat in the Zoom itself. So we'll be taking a look at all the questions and selecting a few to have the panel answer them. So if you have any questions, please do put it up and we'll try to answer as much as possible. All right. For myself, I actually have a question, and it's both for Tee-Ming and Lavone. I see that for both the products, for Sidley as well as Carousell, when the user is to flag a spam comment, for example, both of you choose the manual approach. Maybe we can have Tee-Ming on why you choose this approach of manual curation, and at what point do you actually go to automate it? Similarly for Lavone as well, with millions of, I would expect hundreds of thousands of such flagging to be done, why do you still keep it manual and not, and like as you said towards the end, use machine learning to actually um, filter out these spam comments, given that, as you said earlier, speed is essential in such cases. So can we have Tee-Ming first to, if any comments on that?
Yep, I think that's a great question, and I think Lavone actually briefly mentioned during her sharing, and the main reason is because spammer will always find ways to outsmart you. So I mean, you can have various logic or various way to actually identify patterns to actually catch them, but they will always find ways to work around your system. So I still remember we had an incident where we saw a bunch of fake account from being created on the platform itself. What we realized is that they are using some script to try to create a lot of accounts to upvote their comment and post so that they can actually level up on the community. And what we did was immediately we implemented measures like captcha or this. And there is still, after that day, there is still more fake account that was created on the platform. So I guess basically what I'm trying to say is there is really a lot of ways that you can bypass, and we really have to, have our internal team to actually review manually for certain cases. I think especially for spam content, you definitely will not be able to, it's going to be very, very hard to differentiate between a spam content and a legit content on the platform.
Yeah, I think similar to what Tee-Ming mentioned, it's really because a lot of times we are not able to tell from our identifiers. Sometimes the bad actors actually change so fast that we may not be able to catch up to them in terms of understanding their patterns and then bringing them and then putting them into the machine, right? So a lot of times we also need to make sure that before we are putting anything into machine learning or even automating all these decisions, we want to make sure that we fully understand like the patterns so that we don't moderate on like innocent parties as well. So most of the times, if let's say we are really very sure in terms of how like these bad actors are working on, that's when we automate it. But if we are not very sure, then we rely a lot more on manual moderators. We rely a lot more on community reports as well, mainly in terms of resourcing. If let's say some of the times there's a lot more I think also it's more of, for example, your communities are the ones that are using the app more often. You may not be monitoring as fast as they might be. So in terms of manual moderation, it's really having them as the eyes and ears on whenever they are browsing, and immediately once they realize that something might be amiss, they tell us, and that's when manual moderators, they learn the pattern and put it into like the machine. So I think the main thing for us is really, if we are not confident, then try not to automate it yet. Yeah.
So with all these spam messages coming in, which is a bigger problem? Technology-driven spam or human-driven spam? As in a person coming in and posting the same thing over and over again. Is it a different pattern in order to capture this type of spam?
Yeah, I think for Carousell, I think the main difference between the two, whether it's a human or whether it's a bot, it's really in terms of scale. So if let's say you have a very tech-savvy one, I think similar to what Tee-Ming mentioned, we also face counterfeit bots in Hong Kong, for example. So we noticed that they were creating multiple accounts, listing like thousands of listings in like 1 hour, and basically trying to get people to buy counterfeits. So the scale was a lot bigger. But if you have a one-man person, they are just going to do it like very manually. They won't be as fast, and the scale is a lot smaller. So I think the main thing is really in terms of scale.
Okay, I got it. Thanks so much for the answer. Next question is actually for Boxian. I think you didn't get to share much on this earlier, but could you just share a little bit on the technology that you use at Ninja Van to give assurance to the end user that they will be receiving their product and on time and it will not get damaged? And if anything goes wrong, how do you actually solve the problems? Boxian, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. So I guess tech overall really plays a key role in many parts of our business, right? Because essentially our core operating functions all relies on our systems, right? Which I feel is all key building blocks, right? So building that trust for consumers, right? But I guess one important aspect of all of this is about really bringing visibility and accuracy, right, to our processes, right? And in so doing, we are able to then communicate this accurately to our customers. So ultimately, the keyword for us is really communications, right? Ensure that it's as transparent as possible, as timely as possible, right? And this is seen in a lot of the investments we make in terms of our notifications service, right? How we send messages to update our customers, whether it's through SMS, email, or even the social media channels, right? And our chat service, right, which really helps to support any issues that the customer may face, right? And then they can easily reach our service support teams.
Okay, thank you. Recently, there was this cash on delivery scam where fake parcels were being delivered when people were not ordering for them and made to pay, and the consumer were made to pay on the spot. So what fail-safes were in place to to solve this problem and prevent it from happening again in the future?
Right. So yeah, so I saw the question on the chat. Thanks for bringing it up. Also, it's like appreciated the opportunity to really address this. Just to explain it a bit more, right, I think what happens during the COD scam is actually bad agents, right? This is actually people not in Ninja, right, who are masquerading as Ninja delivery drivers, right? And then they go around asking people for COD for fake parcel delivery, right? So they're essentially copying the messages that we send, right, word for word, right? Say, hey, a Ninja is delivering a parcel today, right? And they're typically targeting folks who stay at home, right, during office hours, who are not the actual buyers of the parcel, right? And that's where they try to convince them, right? Say, oh, your son or your daughter ordered this delivery, please pay for the, right? So how are we trying to address this, right? First is internally we have a dedicated team that follow up with each and every one of these issues, right, to ensure that their problems are addressed, right? We also ensure that we have clear SOPs in terms of how our drivers must be uniformed, right? How our app interface and communication must be really verified. We encourage our drivers to actually encourage our customers to verify the actual buyer before paying, right? Finally, we also have rolled out a formal PR program, right, to really help educate the public more about this ongoings, right? Ensure that in a way people don't get scammed. Yeah, so that's how we are addressing it.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I think I really appreciate how, as a Ninja Van user myself, that your delivery staff are always there in Ninja Van. So that's a certain assurance. I know that it's not a random person dropping off something in front of my door. And yeah, I think that's one of the ways that you can also give assurance to the user that you're not being sent something that is not yours or by a bogus delivery person. All right, we've got some few questions here on the community and building out the community, on building communities and also building out the customer experience. So this is one question that was asked earlier, and any one of you can take this, but I think it'll be most relevant to Tee-Ming, given that Seedly is very much community driven. So the question is there a blueprint we can get a team to follow when they design UX or customer journey for a better experience and service trust with accountability? Yeah, basically is how do you, is there a blueprint to follow? Basically in the terms of design and the journey to make a person, especially for startups, right? We're also new and then we don't have much clout with us, right? We have to be smart with the way we approach things so that people will trust us with providing them the service they are looking for.
I guess for us, the way we design our UX and customer journey depends a lot on speaking to our users. So we actually have a UX researcher in the team where she will constantly try to reach out to our users to understand their pain point. I think a couple of things that we realize regarding trust is that a lot of people mention that sometimes they are not sure whether a certain answer or comment within a post is something that they can trust. So that's the reason why we look at existing platform like Quora, Reddit, how they actually improve that. So what we realize is that you need things like upvote to really differentiate the different content on the platform. So we actually let the community to self-serve and help let them be the one to judge what kind of content is valuable to the community. So we depend a lot on talking to our users to understand what's the pain point to design a better user journey. I won't say that would be like a template that you can just follow. It's really understanding what's the needs of the user and then try to, I think for us, we try to learn from existing social platform, understand how they do it, and then try to implement on our end.
All right, thanks. So in terms of the user experience, one question that pops up a lot is there any differences in the approach to trust and building trust to our end user across the different languages and cultures, especially in the geographical location that we are and the countries that you guys are also in for Carousell and Ninja Van as well? Do you approach the different geographies in a different way, or are certain demographics more accustomed to a certain business process? Or like for us in Singapore, I think we're quite accustomed to no touch, hands-free delivery and all that. So any one of you want to chime in on this? Maybe Lavone, is there a difference when you approach these problems, or is it scam is the same throughout the world?
I would say like in terms of scams, actually like the patterns, they are pretty much the same. But in terms of different languages or like the types of tools they use might be slightly different. So in Singapore, it could be Pay Now, but in Philippines, they have some other kind of bank. So you also want to make sure that you understand exactly what are some of the things that are used locally. So in terms of how we actually try to screen across different language and cultural differences, it's also within our organization. The way we are structured, we actually have like country managers, or even like what we call as market specialists. So they are the ones who are able to speak that language and they are based in those countries. If let's say there is, especially during COVID season, during that February 2020, that was when we had a lot of mask sanitizers, a lot of mispriced listings. We would never be able to understand exactly how much how much a mask is supposed to cost in Philippines if we didn't have people there. If let's say we didn't have market specialists, then you still want to make sure that you can rely on your colleagues there. So if you have any questions, then you're able to ask them. So generally, in terms of moderation teams, or even in terms of service teams, we generally try to ensure that we cover all different markets. As long as we see that different trends in different markets, that's when we further deep dive into those and put it into like the machine learning parts. Yeah.
Sorry, just jump back to Boxian for a while. You spoke a lot about managing the trust of the user as an end customer, but do you also have a process to actually vet your delivery men or delivery personnel, that you can trust them with passing them the delivery item and that is sent, and it's not like they're taking some stuff from the boxes and all that stuff?
Right. So I guess this differs across the markets, right, in terms of the amount of background checks that we do for our drivers, right? But typically we do some sort of a simple background check, right, before we onboard someone, right, and depending on again the market, right, whether we require identification proof and so on and so forth, right. I guess more importantly is how we also in a way monitor the performance of the driver, right, and see whether the certain behaviors, right, can detect a pattern of whether someone is more or less trustworthy, right? And that is where we also start to give a bit more autonomy or freedom to the drivers. For example, how much COD parcels do we entrust this guy with, so forth. Yeah.
Okay, so for the COD, it depends on, so that I will say that your drivers has like a score as well, a trust score that how much you can give to them, and maybe higher end items you treat to the more trusted delivery personnel as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. So on this note, right, some sort of like gamification. Can we have Tee-Ming comment on this? Because I understand that Seedly has a gamification methodology in place on the platform where they reward users with points, if I'm not wrong, based on how active they are in the community. Is there any like I would say a prize for this for those with the highest scores or anything like that?
So for our levels and rewards, the way we try to do it is we try to incentivize contributors, like connect contributors, because to make community work, we need thought leaders, we need knowledge to be shared on the community to make this whole thing valuable. So the way we try to motivate them to climb up the level is we before COVID, we try to organize exclusive events so they can actually join offline events where they get to meet the various thought leaders and people in the financial space, and that's sort of like a closed door kind of thing. we also allow them to participate in claiming certain guides or ebook from our partners as well, and also certain deals that we manage to work with our partners. We also try to give it to them based on the levels itself. So I think that the whole idea is really to make sure that they, while they engage on the community, we try to motivate them as well. Because on the community itself, there's a lot of different financial questions being asked, and the community members have been very helpful to answer them. So we just want to make sure that they stay vested in this community, and that's how we reward them. Yeah.
Right. So once you dangle a reward or a prize in front, I guess that's where you open the doors to all this spam and all bots liking and upvoting your stuff, right? That's how the previous example that you gave came about, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah,
in terms of that,
yeah.
right? Yeah. The user experience. So a few questions here on the user experience. How do you actually manage this? So for Carousell, you maintain the balance between consumer trust and seller friction. You do not want to be too overbearing and like control every single thing, flag every single thing that it becomes totally unusable or totally non-user friendly. There's a question also for Carousell here. Has the processes that you put in place in terms of flagging and all that compromise the customer experience in any way? I mean, this question is open to all of you, not only Carousell, but yeah, in terms of when you implement all these heavy lifting technologies inside, does it compromise the user experience in any way? Or how do you balance this?
Yeah, I think definitely it compromises it mainly because the moment that we enforce, so it's actually like a circular economy. The moment you enforce on or moderate on a certain policy, that's when you receive another whole bunch of tickets that comes in because of your enforcement. And then after that, you need to make sure that you feedback all this back into like the team so that they can constantly monitor and change the processes. And if let's say it's like users are disagreeing with it, then you also want to make sure you understand why are users disagreeing with it, and then try to change the policy or try to educate your users to make them understand. So in terms of like for Carousell, I think we generally look at trust and safety in terms of perverts, fraud, offensive behaviors. But at the same time, there's also those kind of infringements that are more related to marketplace quality, whereby users actually make it uncomfortable for other users in terms of browsing experience, where they list in wrong categories or they take up like spots on the platform by listing many duplicates of the same listing. So based on each different types of categories of offenses, that's when we use different technology and use different approaches to it. So for example, for counterfeits, a lot of time we really rely on community reports. We also try to look at pricing indicators, whether if you are pricing too low for something. We also try to see if we are able to attend training. So previously we actually attended a training by Chanel and they taught us how to identify. But I think the main problem is also for counterfeits itself. Sometimes photos itself, you can't really see. And some of it is not very obvious. Like in China, you have like grade A kind, which you totally wouldn't be able to tell from photos itself or even descriptions. So we also have a program internally where we work with copyright owners. So like brands like LVMH or Chanel, they actually can have an account with us, and we give them this admin right where they can just take down any listings if let's say they can tell that it's a counterfeit. So I think when you actually pass these rights to these owners, they have an interest and they generally would be able to identify better than us. Yeah.
Right. Very interesting. In terms of the, like, for example, of counterfeit products, um, do any of you, or would you even trust using image recognition in order to flag these items? And likewise for maybe Boxian, would it be possible to use image recognition as well when a delivery person delivers a product and usually they will take a photo of the address and the unit number? So is it a possibility, or would you even trust image recognition to verify these items are being sent to the correct address and the item is not counterfeit? Maybe we have Lavone continue first, and then I ask, and Bosen can continue after that.
Yeah, I think we have actually been exploring a lot more in terms of counterfeits. So luxury is one of the key segments that we are trying to focus on in the next upcoming years as well. So we have also realized that there are some authenticators that are actually using this technology to do so. So they are able to use you actually need one of their devices, and then based on photos, they can actually tell whether your item is authentic or not. But we don't really have that kind of technology yet. So we are also trying to see how we are able to work with such partners. Or even if, let's say, in terms of like your user journey, is it possible for, like, for example, before you even send out your item, you are given this choice to bring your item to to send your item to an authenticator first. And if, let's say, it's authentic, then that's when it gets delivered to a buyer. So we are also rethinking in terms of how we can authenticate better and reduce counterfeits. Or if, let's say, buyers are actually willing to pay for such services, then definitely we would also want to introduce this ability for them to do so.
Okay, so how about Boxian? Anything that in terms of image recognition or machine learning that can be used in terms of in logistics, in deliveries?
Yeah, it's actually something that is quite new, right? Taking a photo at a point of delivery is, I would say, a recent trend, right? I'm not sure how many people are actually comfortable, right, when you receive parcels, say, hey, post a picture, right? If you see if you Google some of the I would say delivery experiences now, right, you actually see people posing for the delivery, right? And it's quite interesting. So it's actually something that we are actually exploring and we actually have to do for some of our shippers, right? To take a photo to verify that the delivery was made to the right place. And you're exactly right. We are actually trying to see whether we can use image recognition technology to, in a way, identify the unit number to ensure that it's the right place, right? But it's still limited in its application, right? We still need to ensure certain things like the timestamp of the delivery, right? Whether the image quality, the unit number is accurate, right? Whether it matches with the address, because a lot of times the address itself does not have the unit number as well, right? So certain things that limit this application, but definitely something that we are looking at.
Thank you so much. All right, I know time is running short, so we'll just take one or two more questions. This question is a question was asked earlier. How closely, I know Carousell works with the authorities. How about the other two? For Ninja Van, in terms of working with authorities, maybe for the COD scam that was earlier, and for Tee-Ming being a financial service of sorts, do you have to work a lot with authorities, especially with the number of scams that's appearing nowadays? Maybe Tee-Ming can go first.
Maybe I'll answer this. So we actually don't work. I mean, as of now, we don't work with any authorities, thankfully. But I think what we really receive a lot is from our partners. So because we have a reviews system on the financial products, so sometimes our partners will actually come to tell us that this is not a correct review because they suspect that this review is from a competitor who actually left a bad review about their product. So what we do is we have an internal process where we try to verify with the users to can you show us a proof that you actually use this product, so that we can actually keep your reviews, because if not, if you can't provide a proof itself, we will just remove, because that's sort of like challenged by our partner. So we work more with our partners rather than authority. Yeah.
Okay. How about Boxian? Do you work with the authorities very closely on this as well?
I guess using the COD scam example, is something that you actively cooperate with them, right? In terms of how do we reduce this kind of behavior, right? I mean, one of the things that we also are able to provide them is really a very, very clear electronic trail, right, of whether the delivery actually stemmed from us or not, right? And also, of course, as I mentioned, the PR campaign and all, right?
Okay, nice. Okay, so as a last question for the three of you, actually, are there any tools, security tools, or fraud detection tools that you would recommend, or that you are using at least to the user to our viewers today? We start with Boxian, Tee-Ming, then Lavone, right?
Sorry, that's tools that we recommend.
Yeah, in terms of helping you manage all this fraud and trust issues and all that.
Right.
Or even technologies, basically, yeah.
Well, I'm in product management now, so I can only recommend product management tools, right? I mean, we use Jira, right? It's definitely something that I think is a very critical part of our process, right? In terms of managing scrums, right? The agile process and all of that, right? There's a lot of product and project management tools out there, Basecamp, Asana, Trello. We've all tried all of this. I think ultimately there are always pros and cons to each, but it's really about finding one that suits your style. Then having the entire company really aligned with it, right? And that's where the true power of it comes out, right? It really doesn't matter what tool you use, it's really how you use it.
All right, thank you. Tee-Ming?
Yep. We don't really have any particular tool to recommend, but I guess the very basic is to start logging all the various requests that you receive on your website or server. We care a lot on like IP address. We try to monitor what kind of like action do they do on the platform. So logging definitely is one of the key things. And I think in terms of like keeping track of like all this spam account from being created, we actually like Notion app. So we actually use a lot of Notion to keep track of the people, and also we use it for our work management as well. So I actually would recommend Notion because it's a very easy to use product.
All right, thank you so much. Lastly, Lavone.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned that we kind of use a mixture of like in-house tools as well as third-party tools. So one of the third-party tools we use is called SafeSigns. Basically, we for every action that the users take on the platform, we actually send this event over to their API. That's when they determine and calculate a safe score, and based on this score, they actually we actually can be using these safe scores to set up rules and together with other indicators. So I think for now, that's the one that we are mainly using, mainly because we also don't have that kind of scale where they work with so many different clients. They are able to understand different types of transactions and add on and learn about all the different fraud patterns in different places. So for now, I think if you're looking for like a tool for you to look into like account level detection, that's actually pretty helpful.
Okay, thank you all so much for the questions and answers, and also the viewers for all the questions coming in. There's still some more questions that we not answered. So if don't worry about it, the speakers might go in and answer them if they are free. But that's not the end for today. Before I pass over to Paus, yeah, we have a networking session after this. So stay around if you'd like to continue on with the networking session. All right, Pao, can you take over?
Thank you. All right. Thanks a lot, Ariff. We'd also like to extend our thanks to our speakers, Lavone, Boxian, as well as Tee-Ming. Thank you so much for the insightful sharing. But like Ariff has mentioned, stay on because we have our speed networking coming right up. Before that though, we'd appreciate if you could take just 3 minutes to fill up our post-event survey. We've included the link on this slide here that you see on your screen, and we want to hear your thoughts and ideas for future events. If you're not already an SGN member, then do sign up with us, stay connected with our events and initiatives. More to come on the theme of building, like I've suggested. Right, so I'm just going to leave this on for a couple more seconds. If you want to lock that down, the survey link. So we hope you had a lot of fun today. Thank you all so much for the questions.